All right, so peace, y'all. Welcome to session 3 of the SK Work-Based Learning Program from Repaired Nations. Um, what's good, Tut? How you doing?
What's up, brother? I'm just chilling, man. Soaking up this knowledge. How you feeling?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. The first day, we went through the timeline and we gave out the assignments. The second day was about the introduction for collective courage. We have assignments for that. I'll recap all of the assignments at the end before giving assignment 3. But today is about, we're focusing in on part 1 of collective courage, which is chapters 1, 2, and 3. So, really wanting for you all to continue practicing that technique we talked about yesterday in terms of reading the first and last sentence of every paragraph before you really get hands in. Since most people are only going to be spending about 30 minutes more reading this material, this is going to help you see a lot of what's in the book without having to read everything word for word. And for the cooperative development folks who are asking to spend their remaining time, the remaining 10 hours, also doing this work in addition to the education, that's going to help you get a good understanding of it before you dive in and do all of, do as much reading as you can. And it'll also help you understand which you want to prioritize and which, you don't. And so, man, I was really wanting to start off today with this quote from Du Bois. And so, all right, so Du Bois in 1907 is saying, consequently, we find that the spirit of revolt, which tried to cooperate by means of insurrection, led to widespread organization for the rescue of fugitive slaves among Negroes themselves, and developed before the war in the North and during and after the war in the South into various cooperative efforts toward economic emancipation and land buying. Gradually, these efforts led to cooperative business, building loan associations and trade unions. This is on page 27 of the book for y'all who got the package yesterday. I'm still doing the slideshows because we didn't get everyone their book. But just from this first quote, you can see cooperatives and working together have been something that we've been doing since we got here, and it didn't start here, right? We got that from somewhere else. And so, a lot of us don't know about the history of Black co-ops and the abundance that it was bringing our people. But we're kind of doing a Sankofa project in that we're bringing that back and helping and allowing for that to inform the ways we're moving in the world. And so, really excited for you all to be reading through this chapter, this part 1 and chapter 1. As you're going through it, the first page, a couple pages is going to be talking about, organization of the book and what you can expect to be getting out of it. But what I really want you all to focus in on is these lessons learned from early cooperative efforts. That's going to be assignment 1. A prompt number 1 for when you're filling in the form for today. Pull out one of these lessons and let us know, which of these were most inspiring to you. And we can read a couple now just so you can see what we'll be pulling up on kind of. Down at the bottom here, we're saying that African-American women played significant roles, held leadership positions, and often formed their own organizations throughout these periods and across almost every kind of organization. As founders and main participants in mutual aid societies, women were instrumental in organizational, developmental, fundraising, day-to-day coordination, and network for cooperatives, as well as other organizations. And throughout this book, Dr. Nemhard make sure to uplift that in many of these cases women were the backbone and making sure that folks were getting their groceries or their scholarships or what have you. And so, I think we always try and uplift that as well. Us men folk, we'll find good examples of us too, but I think we're still trying to get to even with the amount of deference and stuff that we're giving to men and women. So that's one example of lessons that you'll find in here. Another unfortunate example, I think it's one of the last ones. It says many, if not all of these efforts were targeted for destruction by white supremacists, unsympathetic, often fearful whites, and or white economic competitors. Another big thing about the book. And I think at the end of chapter 1 and going into chapter 2, we start to see more of that surfacing as we become, more and more sufficient. And yeah. So, the first, what is it, like 3 or 4 pages of the readings, part 1, pages 27 through 30. Yeah. So when you're reading those, make sure to pull out one of these lessons learned and tell us what it is in prompt number 1. Going into chapter 1 for early economic cooperation. Yeah, I think we should start with this as well, this quote. So Woodson in 1929 says, "This tendency towards mutual helpfulness appeared even among the slaves. Wherever Negroes had their own churches, benevolence developed as a handmaiden of their religion. They looked out for the sick, provided them nourishment with the common fare of the plantation did not afford, and often nursed and treated such patients until they reestablished health. Free Negroes of the South were well known for their mutual help." And so the practices that we were developing in Africa for millennia, in terms of like cooperation, knowing how to work with each other, knowing how to work with each other to such a high degree that, like unfathomable things were created, and we're still trying to figure that out. What we're going to be learning in this chapter 1 is going to be really cool, because the first few pages starts off with letting us know what W.E.B. Du Bois was doing and how much he was kind of involved in co-ops from early on. But then we're going to get into these intentional communities that folks were building in the late 1800s. Tet and I are trying to start an intentional community now with a cooperative Wakanda. But we had no clue a couple years ago that our ancestors were doing this in the 1800s, right? That's, I don't know. There's still things where I'm no, wait, okay. But so when you're reading these, I want you to find one of these that are really interesting for you and let us know why. And so we can all model that technique that I was talking about earlier today and yesterday, in terms of how when you're going through this stuff, you can read the first and last paragraph or first and last sentence of the paragraph and still get a whole bunch. So I'll start here. In addition, abolitionists and abolitionist societies deliberately established Negro organized communities and communes to house free African Americans and to teach them how to live as free people, earn a living and an education, and run their own communities. That was the first. The first communities were recorded in 1830. Oh, wait, no. Oh, yeah, it is. Were recorded in 1830 and were gone by the end of the Civil War with emancipation. While most of the successful communes were located in Canada, some took root in the United States. Inhabitants raised corn, wheat, oats, and tobacco, and operated a sawmill, grist, rope factory, and brickyard. The Northampton Association of Education and Industry was a utopian community, and short-lived integrated commune in Western On Sunday mornings, they worshiped, and Sunday afternoons were set aside for free discussions and debates about world issues, as well as commune policies. 3 or 4 African Americans were associated with the NAEI. The association accepted harbor fugitives from enslavement as part of its abolitionist and social justice mission. Frederick Douglass was a fugitive from enslavement, an abolitionist, a newspaper editor, and a shipbuilder by trade who became an advisor to presidents and the first African-American recorder of deeds in the District of Columbia after the Civil War. Where's the end of that paragraph? Here, at least, neither my color nor my condition was counted against me. Douglass was mentioned meeting David Ruggles and Sojourner Truth. All right, so you can see I just went like back and forth between first and last sentences of the paragraphs. Sometimes I got it right in terms of the last, sometimes I didn't. But that was an exercise in showing like you can gain like, you know, a good understanding or at least a fair understanding of what's happening by just reading those sentences. You can get pretty far into the book. And then after that, and you know like what's happening in the book, you can go back and read more in depth and like. So prompt number 2 is going to be reading through chapter 1 about the international communes and telling us which of the communes was inspirational for you and why. And so it could be the Wilberforce, it could be Don's Settlement, could be Northampton Association of Industry, probably not the Neshoba Commune, but maybe the Combahee River Colony. Like, we'll see. Maybe Neshoba is inspirational to you because you're like, yo, like, we don't need no white saviors. And I know that, and this is also taught me that. That's awesome. And then as we're getting into the end of the chapter 1, we're gonna be talking about like more mutual aid. And I want you all to pull out an inspiring fact about mutual aid in here. The purpose of these mutual aid societies was to provide people with the basic needs of everyday life. Bottom highlighted, including clothing, shelter, and emotional and physical sustenance. In addition to social welfare functions, many of the societies promoted temperance and other middle-class Christian values, but they also protected fugitives and free African Americans from kidnappers. There's almost anything we can think of has and can be done through mutual aid. Folks were doing like mutual aid for burials, so like the expenses wouldn't get too high for someone. Folks were doing mutual aid for like orphans, for scholarships. They were doing it for food, as was said. Like, I don't know, like I hope that you enjoy this section about mutual aid. You'll see that in the past, a lot of secret societies and churches were the ones who were involved in like starting these things because that's where Black folks were able to gather without like causing up a stir in the wider society. And then, you know, it kind of like grew out from there. So yes, yeah, please, as you're reading through this, you know, take note of like, you know, how many societies were happening like back in the 1800s, how many people, you know, in Philadelphia or in New York. You'll also, like towards the end, be able to read more about the Ex-Slave Mutual Benefit, Bounty, and Pension Association, which was advocating for reparations, like way back when. So you can read more about Maggie Lena Walker and the Independent Order of St. Luke, a mutual aid society that ended up starting its own bank. Just like really amazing, cool stuff. And yeah, that's some of the things you'll find in there. So anything you want to add into that?
No, this is just a great introduction into the book and early history, how our information of how, other than, you know, being a runaway or trying to deal with the day-to-day lives of slavery, what else we were doing within the North and the South. You learn about different colonies and communities where there was attempts to form this communal community, even with whites. And a lot of times it's noted that if it wasn't sabotaged by the outside racial tension, or the 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 so-called ruling class trying to infiltrate and destroy, it really was brought to ends from within. When they couldn't hold on to the communal aspect of doing things collectively, and individualism kind of caused their demise. So there's a lot of beautiful stories and a lot of beautiful individuals that we may not have heard about. And this is a good way to get our feet wet, so to say, to the oncoming chapters within the book. Yeah, it talks a lot about Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth, a brother named David Ruggles that was new to me, might be new to you, but a lot of powerful individuals that we have in our legacy, in our people's legacy in this country that that is explained in detail in the first chapters.
Thank you, bro. So when you all are looking at the curriculum that we shared with you, I'll also be like setting that daily email kind of in this format. The YouTube videos will be linked to the day ones, day twos, etc. The slideshows are down here in materials, and this general ed assignment portal. You'll use this each day. You can put a question in here, hit submit, I'll show you. And then once you do that, it will allow for you to put in another answer. And so I just did that. Now I hit submit another response, I can do another. So you'll just be using the same portal, the whole 6 months. Feel free to like bookmark it or save it, however you want. But yeah, you'll always be returning back to this. And our goal is that, these morning sessions are, about 30 minutes, and then you're spending 30 to 45 minutes on the follow-up work. For the general education portion, the 5 hours that we all agreed to. And then the cooperative development folks, we're asking for you to spend your 10 hours going real in depth in this book, because there's just so much and you can't get it all in that 4 or 5 hours that we have in the education, in the general ed. So some folks are going to get a brief intro, other folks are going to get more in depth. But yeah, really thankful for you all submitting the assignments, letting me know your addresses so we could send out the backpacks from Ghana, the Collective Courage books. All right, so I'm going to run down the assignments again. And yeah, I think that'll be that, unless there are any questions. And I just want to say, the reason that I'm doing the assignments verbally rather than writing these down for you is because I want for you to be watching these videos, and they're not long. They're part of we've structured it so it's part of your 5 hours. So watch the videos, write down the assignments, do the follow-up. That's the structure we got right now. If it's too much of a hardship for you, we may consider changing it, but I think it's good. All right, so assignment 1. For prompt number 1, you're gonna pick 2 co-ops you're excited to learn more about and tell us why. Oh, I'm sorry, for prompt number 1, assignment number 1, prompt 1. So right here, you're gonna put in 1 co-op you're excited about and why. Prompt number 2, the second co-op you're excited about and why. Prompt number 3, tell us your address so we can drop off the book. That was assignment number 1. Assignment number 2, we want for you to look at the tables. Well, assignment number 1 was based off of the timeline of Collective Courage. Just to get that. Assignment number 2 is based off the introduction for Collective Courage. And so for prompt 1, you're going to look at the tables outlining the different different things for different entity choices. You're going to tell us one thing you've learned from reading that outline that talks about the difference between, or that after reading the table, that talks about the difference between cooperative corporations and LLCs and stock corporations and partnerships. The second prompt in assignment number 2 is give us one fact of interest that came from the cooperative advantage section in the introduction. The third prompt, if you have any questions about cooperatives and how they work after watching that brief intro that we did in the second video and reading through the introduction, which gives some definitions on what co-ops are, how they work, let us know. And then that way, when we're returning back to this after the book, like I think it's week 4 or 5, we'll be able to program that in to make sure we're teaching to where you're at. All right, so that was assignment number 2. Assignment number 3, in prompt number 1, please put one lesson learned from the overview section in part 1. There's that whole lesson learned section. Like, please pull one out. Like, let us know which one stuck with you and you're walking away with. Prompt number 2. Tell us one intentional community you're inspired by. And you're gonna find that in chapter 1. And then prompt number 3. Tell us one mutual aid story you're inspired by. And that's also in chapter 1. Cool. Yeah, so after this session ends and the video downloads from Google, I'll be putting it up into I'll be putting it in in the email form and also in the curriculum, so you'll be able to find it in those 2 places. Trying to get into the habit of texting the folks who said they needed support with text. Yeah, that's what I've got for today. Real grateful for you all showing up, showing out. Any questions from you all, or Ted, anything you want to add?
No, that was dope. I want to leave the floor open for the brothers or the sisters in attendance. If you have any questions about the process, how it's been going so far. And if you're watching this live, you can email any questions. I just reach out to Brother Greg. This is a good time to do that so we can get on track moving forward through the program. All right. Trevor, hold your peace. I think that's it, bro.
All right, cool. So like we said, like, really appreciative for you all showing up. Thank you for following up and doing the assignments. We're really hoping that at the end of this 6 months, you all got a good understanding of the history of co-ops. Like, that's the first thing in Black communities, and then you feel like confident implementing this stuff in the real world. So excited for the journey, and really appreciative for you all being here. So we'll see you tomorrow. That's the last session for the week, and yeah, we're gonna keep moving and building this thing up.
That's it, brother. See y'all.